All right. Well,
Yes.
it is time for a post-mortem on our Glíma experience, or maybe more accurately, a post-mortem on my...
Your broken sternum and my torn shoulder.
Yeah, that was the word I was looking for, sternum, yeah.
I tweaked, or I think I pulled something.
Yeah, my host last night thought that I had broken my bringubane, which is the Icelandic word for this. And I think that's a little extreme, maybe. But I have to say, you know, the pain of breathing is manageable still. So
It's good.
yeah,
I can mostly get my arm over my head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we are shooting Finnish brutality in 3 days, 2 days.
2 days, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know, drengskapur,
That's
as
fine.
Rainer said.
Yes.
Well, we've spent a solid hour and 10 minutes getting our asses kicked at Glíma. Explain to us how that has worked.
It worked pretty damn well. You're becoming Glíma men. And yeah, you get at home, this is what Glíma looks like. You're seeing the stepping motion, and all kinds of badassery. So Glíma is really unique in that in this upright posture that they do there. This is called to be upright, and it's really attractive and beautiful, and it forces you to have really swift and deceptive tricks. We call them tricks. These moves.
As I was discovering and trying it just a little bit, since you're standing upright looking over your opponent's shoulder, you don't see what your opponent is about to do. You have to kind of feel it in the tension or in some movement of the leg that's brushing your leg. It's like a hidden leg game.
Yep, 100%.
So the grip is very specific, and the belt is very specific.
Yes.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about what we're seeing with the grip.
So, the belt was invented in 1905, and the belt has changed forms a few times. This is the sort of final form since 1966, and with the right hand holding the upper grip, the upper hand, and the left hand is holding the lower hand. And from this position, all grips are done. And it's really unique because it's akin to the Viking Age wrestling of gripping the opponent close to his lower back, lifting him up. So there are so many things that are similar.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
stepping.
What is going on with that? Because it seems like, to me, stigandi, stepping, seems like dribbling in basketball. It's what you have to be doing before you do anything else.
Yes, sort of. This is really akin to waltz, the dancing. And it is actually only to those who understand, who know, who have tried it enough, they will see that this is a combative move. You set up your throws, your takedowns with this dance. So is it going fast, is it going slow, how can you counter it, and so on and so forth. It's really, it's like a Viking puzzle, a poetry that you need to unsolve.
Right. It's knotty. It needs to be unraveled.
Yeah.
Knotty, K-N-O-T-T-Y. So, when two people face off, like these two are about to do again, what do they do? What are we going to see?
So to begin with, they shake hands, as you can see here.
Yeah.
Because this is about drengskapur. That's the number one rule of Glíma. Then they take grip.
So higher on the. So we've got these belts too.
Yeah.
So high on the right, like here, and then low on. Oops.
Yep. Low on the left.
Go back.
Yep.
See.
Some assistance from the
Yes.
sidelines.
Okay. Here. I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's the low grip. That's
On the
high
left
grip.
side, on the right side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thumbs out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is important.
Yeah, don't
I also
break
know
them.
that from four-wheel drive. Okay, and then you start stepping in a clockwise motion. That's the stigandi. Yeah. Okay, and that's where all moves begin.
Happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. As we see them doing in a beautiful pace.
Yeah.
And the pace can change. It's not a set rhythm.
No.
Fast, slow.
Yeah. This is how you trick your opponent. or
Yeah.
fight his trickery.
And as you mentioned, a move is a brag, the trick,
Yeah.
right? Just like we see in Thor fighting with Etli in the Brozetta, or Eith with the kid in.
It is, and as I told you, the etymology is swiftness and deception, and this is what you see, and that's mostly what you experience. Now that you've done it yourself, you think, "Why am I on the ground now? What happened? I was standing."
Yeah. And I was remarking to Ian that when you had said wrestling, I'm thinking about something happening on the ground.
Yeah.
This is about getting someone to the ground.
Yeah.
It's not really about being on the ground.
Yeah.
Because once you're on the ground, you've lost. But explain how you have fallen, because you can hit the ground partially and not be considered to have fallen.
Yes. So if you hit from anything from here, from the knee to here, if it touches the ground, you're falling. But if you land on the hand, you're still standing up. And this comes from Grágás, the laws about a fall, when there's a man falling. So it is really ancient.
And so it's not just tripping; it can also be lifting.
In most cases, it is also lifting. So when you see even the smallest tricks, you will see them happen through the belt. Either a small lift before a leg sweep, or a small pull. So this is the controlling point, the belt itself.
And so you cannot touch your opponent anywhere other than the belt.
No.
Okay. But you can take your hands off the belt partially sometimes.
Yeah, then it will be stopped, and you'll just have to get the grips again.
Right. Well, but I mean, when you in a move, right? I'm putting you on the ground.
Yeah.
So I am letting go then.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Because you can't follow the person to the ground, because that would be a knee. Then you would be a knee that person, and the fall would be nullified.
I see. So actually, in a sense, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that kind of ground fighting is knee.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, yeah, I wouldn't have thought about that. Whereas when you mention wrestling, that's the first thing again that comes to my mind. I don't even know what I would call this in English. Really,
wrestling think grappling is a better term than wrestling.
Well observed from Ian. Yeah. Grappling is better than wrestling for sure.
But as I told you guys, this is very unique. This is there's nothing like it.
Always feeling like you talk.
We're that bad.
My name is Eva Jónsdóttir, and I started practicing Glíma when I was 11. So for I can't do math.
Many years.
Like 15, 16 years now. And I started because I didn't live in Iceland and moved to Reyðarfjörður, the same place that Kristín is from. So you could practice either, you want to say soccer or football, and Glíma. So I did both. And then I just kept doing the Glíma.
Do you find, is there any kind of mentality from the other martial art you've studied that transfers to Glíma at all? The footwork maybe?
Maybe. I think it's the same as with almost all sports. It's a balance thing. Like you see it in judo, you see it in even like track and field, is that you want to keep your balance and where you keep your weight steady, because once you lose that center of balance, you're gone.
My name is Margrét Rúnarsdóttir. I am the managing director of the Glíma Association of Iceland. I'm from Ísafjörður, which is in the westwards of Iceland, and I've been doing this as well since I was a kid, since I was 10. I just started since my brothers were doing it, and myself, and I kept on doing it once I started winning all the boys. It started being fun as a kid, then I just kept on doing it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And I noticed both Ísafjörður and Mývatn, fairly remote locations from the capital city. Is Glíma bigger in the country than in Reykjavik?
At the moment it is. It used to be that it was quite active here in Reykjavik, in the capital area. But for the last, let's say, 10 years, it's been more active, or 10, 15 years, it's been more active in the countryside actually, than it has been here in Reykjavik and surroundings. But hopefully that will change.
So we talked to Rainier a little bit after the demonstrations yesterday, when the adrenaline was still keeping some of the pain at bay. And one thing I said to him was that the word wrestling just seems really inept to me.
Yeah.
And I liked your choice of words, grappling. Do you have any further thoughts on how you would categorize Glíma after what we saw last night?
It really is like combat waltz.
Combat waltz, that's a good point.
It really is a very elegant system.
Mm-hmm.
And I can totally understand why their attempts to export it to places like Denmark have utterly failed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a lot of what appear to be arbitrary rules in it that I can, like, two people who don't know Glíma trying to learn together without any professional, without any experienced input, I can see it just going really terribly wrong.
Yes, absolutely. Including injuries or just like pointless throwing each other.
Yeah, the rules change and you lose the core of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, another thing that occurs to me, having looked at that footage, is that when we were driving over to the sports club where we watched this and participated in it, Rainier kept saying, "Oh, you're going to think this is so weird, and you're going to look at this and you're going to say, what the hell, guys?" And, well, I didn't really feel that at the time, but looking at the footage, I can kind of see what he means. It does look a little weird. Like,
it doesn't look like any other form of grappling or wrestling.
No, and it's particularly weird that you're standing straight up and you're just, sort of grabbing each other's belts. It is, okay, yeah, I get it now. It is visually odd.
Yeah.
I am not sure if you showed a group of 10 people who had never seen Glíma or heard about it a scene of Glíma, that they would be able to tell you that it was...
What the hell did I just watch?
Yeah, right, but they'd be able to tell you it was a sport or martial art. I don't know. But once you have it explained to you by someone like Rainier, who cares about it so much and is so invested in its place in Icelandic culture, I think that you do see something a little bit like what he's talking about with how it's a survival of a certain, if you want to say Viking, you can, or I would even just say pre-modern spirit of combat.
Yeah.
It's all about quick, aggressive moves. It's not about performing some long, it can be a long series of stigandi, right? But there's not a lot of back and forth of kicks and strikes and moves like that. It's decisive.
I can see a number of very clear comparisons to real, like, armed combat from the period, and also to the Viking dueling, which was turn-based. And there are no formal turns in Glíma. Initiative is open to whoever takes it, but the movement, that very rhythmic movement, gives it that feel of a turn-based sort of thing. And partly, a lot of the moves have to be, to do them correctly, you have to do them on the forward step or the backward step where the momentum is going in the direction you want it going. And like in other martial arts, if you look at modern MMA or something, it is a flurry of attacks. And it can be miss, 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 hit. And then, you got to hit. That's good. With Glíma, you've only got one chance at a move. And if you make that move, if you make that attack half-heartedly or tentatively, your opponent is almost certain to evade it. And then you've failed. And like now they're going to take the initiative and attack back, where the best chance you can have at making that attack work is to do it forcefully, quickly, and all in.
Yeah.
Like I kept getting criticized for, you're not leaning far enough into to like pushing your opponent down with the shoulder. You're not throwing your back leg out far enough to leverage your body forward. You're being too tentative, among many other critiques. But
yes, it hurts my soul, said Eva.
Quote unquote, it hurts my soul to watch you two do that.
Apparently because we were so stiff.
Yeah.
But tentative is also a problem on the offensive side for someone who's totally new, because I don't know if I'm doing it right.
But think about that compared to sword or especially axe combat. You don't tentatively attack with an axe.
It's not a tap.
The whole, if you compare it to a flurry of quick strikes, even if you make one, it's not going to be very effective, especially if your opponent has a shield or mail. The way that an axe works in combat, especially against an armored opponent, is a full power cleave the arm off kind of strike. And to me, I can totally see the relationship to Glíma there.
Yes, you've expressed this more elegantly, more glímulega than I could have, actually. Do you see any particular connection to any unarmed martial arts system that you know of? I mean, I know you've done some Krav.
I've done some Krav Maga, but I haven't done much else. I haven't done any sort of other formal wrestling or grappling. So I just don't have the background to know if there's a connection.
Yeah, I wondered about it. I mean, I have just the martial art I have the most experience with is Kendo. I can't remember if it was you or Rainier who said that maybe you would recognize some similar formalism to it. I don't really see it, because beyond just like shaking hands or bowing, I didn't see very much of that. I did see a little bit of similarity to jiu-jitsu, which I did for a little while. Not in moves, but in just the power with which moves are executed, just that speed. I think, it shades into there a little bit, but of course jiu-jitsu is all about ground game, and this is all about getting to ground game.
Right. This is like, you're not allowed to push your opponent farther down. You have to the technique has to accomplish the fall in order for it to be considered a win. The other, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in fact, I think it was my tentativeness is what hurt me, right? I think it's because I was leaning into shoulders of people who knew what I was about to do, right? And it's those shoulders pushing back against me that got my breastbone sore.
Actually, that leads really well into what I was thinking, which is there is so much more involved in doing Glíma effectively than I realized. Even just the difference between watching it being demonstrated at first and then actually trying it. There are so many different layers of it. There is that like you're telegraphing moves if you're stiff like we both were. Your opponent literally has their hands on your hips, and that's, you know, your hips are one of the hips are going to move before almost any other part of you if you start to do something. And so the skilled Glíma wrestlers will start to recognize those very slight movements, pre-movements of the hips, and they can tell what you're planning. Same thing with the shoulders. And that was something I had absolutely no awareness of.
Right. But we were thrown into an advanced practice group.
You say that only because we had the female world champion there.
It's true. And like the 5-time best form guy. Whatever.
Yeah.
Because the championship has best, you beat everybody, and then it's you did this most beautifully. And so
right.
he's apparently won that like 5 times in a row.
That's what they said. Yeah.
My name is Einar Eyþórsson. I'm from the North Country in Lake Mývatn. And I've been doing this since I was 6 years old.
And your father and brother are also Glíma men?
Yes.
Excellent.
And his father before him, and my cousins. And
is that fairly common that this runs in families?
Kind of, yeah. It's not a very common thing.
Yeah, sure.
So it tends to run in families.
And is it practiced in a remote country like around Mývatn? It's just practiced at home, or are there gyms?
Like meetups in like the local gathering place, like where parties are held and weddings and stuff.
Oh, okay.
So we meet there like Saturday at maybe 2.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And maybe 2 hours.
But you know, I go into it thinking like, okay, you've got this array of fixed moves because there's only so many tricks for throwing. Okay, so you figure out those and you learn how to execute them properly, and then boom, that is Glíma. Well, no, there's that. There is recognizing what your opponent is about to do. There is not telegraphing moves yourself. Just the movement. For example, one of the things that I think it was Ava did to me once is she upped the tempo. We've got this standard sort of pace going. Like, okay, my brain gets into this rhythm. I can do this. I can plan for it. And then all of a sudden it doubles. And I'm like, what? And then I'm on my back.
That was during the Glíma, right? Where we were in teams.
Yeah.
I saw that too.
Just so much more to it that you have to master in order to be good at the final product. That really impressed me.
And may I go so boldly far as to compare it a little bit to shooting? I think that sometimes people look at shooting and they see something that is apparently superficially simple. And of course, the literal simple act of pulling a trigger is simple. But to know what pace to pull it, what part of the finger to use, to account for wind, to account for a million different variables that you or I maybe don't always that consciously think about. Just because we've done it so much.
Yeah.
I think that there is sort of a comparison there too.
I can see a comparison. I think Glíma is harder. Now maybe that's because I'm atrocious at Glíma, having done it once, and I've been shooting for a long time. But
which one of us is worse at Glíma? That's an interesting question.
I think I did throw you twice.
Okay, so it's probably me. Oh well.
But maybe I was just more excited and aggressive about it, because I did find that, like, for all the talk about how terrible we were and how we both injured ourselves, it was a lot of fun, and I really did enjoy it.
It was fun.
I really think if I had a Glíma gym at home, I would be very inclined to actually put some real time in and try to build up some sort of measurable skill level.
Yes. I mean, if I wind up hanging out in Reykjavik more with like the Manuscript Institute, like we were talking about, I could see myself, popping over now and then, giving it a try.
Full of flies.
Hopefully finding like a group of hamsters that practice Glíma, just so I can,
very small children.
Be it about my skill level.
Actually, that brings up another point. My initial assumption was, like, okay, this is mixed gender practice, and here's Einar, the human mountain, and these much shorter girls, and it's like really, is this going to be competitive? And no, it is, because there is enough it really is a balance of technique and agility and power. And one can overcome the other. It's a rock, paper, scissors sort of thing, where there's a counter to every move, and there's a weakness to every strength. And so if you're a small person, the challenge is to learn the techniques that are most effective for a small person fighting against a large person, and vice versa.
Now, whether you're large or small, you have balance. And I mean, I saw some of those girls when Einar was trying to throw them or flip them, successfully get their feet back on the ground.
Oh yeah, go from no contact with the floor to not flat on their back, which was very impressive.
My name is Kristín Embla, and I come from Reyðarfjörður. I have been doing Glíma for 11 years, and it was just like a chance. I started because a friend of mine wanted to start and dragged me with her in practice, and I just haven't stopped since. It's a good community.
And you're a champion, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm the holder of the Freyjamen, which is the biggest championship in Iceland, Icelandic Grappling for female.
That's awesome. So you say for women, but in this practice session we've seen more women than men, and quite a mixed group. So is practice done with mixed sexes, and then championships are a formal competition separate?
Yeah, there are not many people that are practicing, so we just practice both female and male together on practices, but during competition we divide up. There are, in some competitions there are also like weight categories, but not in the biggest one.
In Freyjamen?
In Freyjamen Grappling, which is male.
And do you find that the mixed sex practice benefits your skills in the championships?
We don't wrestle the same. More often males are like doing kind of more throws that lift each other up in the air, and we do more like hooks and stuff. But we use both. So, but it's different. Different to us.
I have enjoyed getting this information firsthand because, of course, it is actually pretty hard to find information about Glíma on the internet.
Rainer told us when we were done that at this point we probably know more about Glíma than 99.9% of the Icelandic population.
We are Glíma elite.
Apparently. Not that you'd know it from the footage.
No. Well, I was, the 8th best Glíma mother there last night?
That top 10, man. We're both in the top 10, so...
Top 10.
Oh, yeah.
This message has been approved by the Glíma Samband Íslands.
who are also embarrassed that you've watched us make such a horrible spectacle of their art. Their beautiful, elegant art, except when we do it.
Well, but seriously, our thanks to Glíma Samband Íslands, who were so cool to share their hour of time at the gym with us. I mean, they obviously could have had a more constructive practice session without us, but they took the time. Reynir Óskarsson took a lot of time to talk to us about Glíma.
Yeah,
really appreciate him, and we hope that if you come to Iceland, you will take an interest in this and maybe check it out yourself.
There are not trivial number of Icelanders who are watching this right now because they're in your audience.
Oh, that's right.
We know it because you got recognized on the street a couple times here. So,
where's my sunglasses?
If you are an Icelander watching this, if you're not familiar with Glíma, or if you've heard of it, which maybe you probably have, but never seriously thought about it, check it out. I would call it a totally legitimate sport, and it is a purely Icelandic thing. Mm-hmm. And I would love to see it grow to ensure that it becomes stable. Yeah. It is a very niche thing right now, and there is that chance that if too many of the experienced wrestlers stop, or if it goes too long and they move on to other things, I don't want to say the sport can die, but it's not that big. It's an endangered species right now. Definitely. And it'd be really cool to see it thrive more here in Iceland.
Yeah, which seems to be, the only place it really could thrive.
Yeah.
Not that's a statement about not some quality of it, but some attribute of it. It's Icelandic. It's tied to the history and landscape and tradition of this place. And by the way, I'll put the contact information for Glíma Samband Íslands down at the bottom. You can find how to get more information there, see their schedule of practice, and see the leaders, the people you need to talk to about where they practice. And they practice not just in the Reykjavik. One thing that we were told last night too is that it's quite big in the countryside and some of the smaller towns too.
Yeah, bigger there for a long time than in the capital.
Yeah. So check it out. And thanks to Glíma Samband Íslands and Reynir Óskarsson. And from beautiful Iceland, I'm wishing you all the best.